Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School, and the other day you saw that there was this interesting interview where R. Kelly, Mr. R. Kelly, the guy out of Chicago, decided that he wanted to go on the Huff Post live show,
Mhm.
and he found that not everybody's going to pretend like hasn't been accused by multiple children of doing some things that a man should never do. And so to kind of dig into this a little bit, I want to talk to my good friend, respected radio show host, Mr. Ben Dixon from the Benjamin Dixon Show. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Dr. Watkins. Thanks so much for having me.
Good. I'm glad you're here, man. I always get it wrong. I always say the Ben Dixon Show, but it's the
Yeah,
Benjamin Dixon Show, right?
yeah, Benjamin Dixon Show.
Benjamin Dixon Show. Okay.
But I did register bendixonshow.com because you've announced it so many times, so they can go there too and get to my website.
Good. 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 Yeah. Okay. So I didn't screw up totally.
No, no, that's
You
all.
know, I saw this interview, man. I saw R. Kelly on HuffPost Live, and it got real messy. You know, he was talking to the woman, and she asked him some questions that I didn't think really were that bad. But he started getting testy with her and started, just saying these things that were kind of disrespectful. At least, she interpreted it that way. Oh, you're beautiful, blah 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 blah. And she's like, don't comment on my appearance.
Yeah.
And it got real interesting. What did you think about that interview when you saw it?
Um, you know what? I was bothered by the interview. I the first thing that came to mind is that R. Kelly comes from R. Kelly's from the old school, right? R. Kelly comes from a time where he expected a patty cake kind of interview, and I guess he didn't realize that people. It's really not a stage for him not to be accountable for some of the things in the past. People want to know about the things in the past, even though it is the past, right? So I don't think he was mentally prepared for what he walked into. Clearly, he wasn't, which is why he walked off the stage.
Hmm. Well, I agree with you. It was interesting. I mean, I was thinking to myself, did anybody coach him? Did he get prepared for this?
Right, right.
Because he was really really upset, and he actually walked off the stage and all
Hmm.
this stuff, which only served to draw more attention to the interview.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing. I mean, I don't know if it was a publicity stunt. Maybe somehow somebody in his camp felt it would actually be beneficial to the
Hmm.
album. I can't imagine that, but you can't help but wonder. Maybe that's what maybe they were playing chess and we're thinking checkers. What do you think? I mean, do you think there's any benefit to R. Kelly by the fact that him walking off the stage drew so much attention to the interview?
You know what? I think what's the adage? Bad publicity is good publicity, right? It's going any publicity is going to help you sell. Somebody he's now relevant, and that's one of the things that bothered me truly about the interview is that R. Kelly, for all intents and purposes, is really not relevant. I know he has a new album out. I know he's trying to do things and he's trying to get people to buy his album, but in the bigger scope of things, he's not really relevant. And that interview kind of made him relevant again, even if in a negative way.
Mm. Yeah, okay. So he gets the benefit of being relevant, but he's also a relevant person who's been
Yeah.
accused in a pretty credible way of doing things with underage girls that he shouldn't have done. And so what
Right.
a lot of people go back to is this whole idea that he's never been convicted,
Hmm.
as if not guilty means that you're innocent. What do you think about that?
So, all right. So I have mixed feelings about that. Right. It's complicated in the sense that if we are going to say that justice has been served because a jury has found somebody not guilty, then that's a hard pill to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow because we've seen a lot of cases with police officers who have been found not guilty or didn't even go to trial, and they yell at us that justice has been served. If we are going to set the standard where justice has been served is justice has been served, then a lot of times that's ugly, right? It's not good. And we look at the case where O.J. Simpson, or we look at the case with R. Kelly. As a community, we know that justice wasn't served. Right, or many people feel as though justice has not been served, but it's kind of a mixed bag of goods when you have instances where that justice serves us in our favor, and then at other times it doesn't. And so you got to take the good with the bad. Unfortunately, that's the way our system is set up.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, it's I'll tell you that if people want to kind of hear the other perspective, Lisa Van Allen, a young woman who was one of the accusers of R. Kelly, gave an interesting interview. I want to say it was in Essence magazine,
Hmm.
and she talks about some things that happened a few years ago when she was about 17 and he was 31, But then there are these other stories about women that were younger than that. Now, what do you think? I mean, do you think that in this world, people maybe can look at that and say, okay, 31-year-old guy, 17-year-old, if she was 18, if she were a year older, nobody would care, or wouldn't
Right.
be such a big deal to people. I mean, do you think that that story, as compelling as it was, because it's interesting, because she really goes into detail and talks about what happened when
Hmm.
actually, she actually talks about him interacting with her and another girl who was like 16. Um, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that some people are just kind of overlooking it and saying, okay, well, he's an older man, he likes the younger women, and they're almost legal, so it's no big deal. I mean, do you think there's kind of a lackadaisical attitude as it pertains to that kind of thing?
I think, unfortunately, so. I think a lot of times, especially with people who are successful, people who are athletic, football players, we are recording artists. A lot of times, we give them more room to do things that they absolutely should not be getting away with, right? In any case, like a 31-year-old with whatever age, once it's against the law, it's against the law. And then two, it's that undue influence that an older person has over a younger person. And we as a community, sometimes we turn a blind eye. Not just I don't want to just pin this on the black community. There are a lot of recording companies. There are a lot of agents. There are a lot of tour managers that also turned a blind eye. That because R. Kelly was relevant, R. Kelly was making all kinds of money. They might have even just been feeding this behavior. And so what happens is we know the story. When someone is successful, nobody's going to call you out on the things that you're doing wrong. They're going to feed you. They're going to keep doing the things that you want done because you're making them a lot of money. So not only did a lot of people in the community turn a blind eye, but a lot of people, record agencies and label executives, they turn a blind eye as well. And so now here we are, not to use a pun, but now he's finally paying the piper in terms of the public opinion, in terms of the public persona, even though it's years later after the fact.
Mm. Well, here's the interesting thing about Lisa Van Allen's story, which people should check out. It's at Essence Magazine. If you look up Lisa Van Allen, I want to say that's her first name. Um, you'll get a chance to kind of see, what
Hmm.
what's one of the accusers is saying. Now, um, the interesting thing about the Van Allen story is that she says that when about '98, he was 18 and she was 18 by the time, and she met another girl that they all kind of had these threesomes together. And when she met the girl, she asked how old is she or something, and the girl said that she was 16, or R. Kelly told her that she was 16. And so they had some sexual encounters, and about a year and a half, 2 years later, they were with the girl again, and she claims that the girl said, "Well, when I turn 16, I want you to buy me a PT Cruiser, or I want a PT Cruiser." So this was 2 years after she had been told that she was 16, which 16 already. I mean, a lot of people,
Yeah.
most people would say that's not acceptable.
Right.
But then you're talking about 2 years later, where the girl's still saying, "When I turn 16." So it almost seems like like people kind of overlooking a lot of the truths, because
Right.
this guy has so much talent, and people will just want to believe that he's this wonderful person. Or maybe we just don't care about young girls that much. That's the only thing I can think about. That people don't
It's the
care enough
same.
to even want to investigate this. Do you think? I mean, what do you think? Do you think that we have just sort of this fundamental disrespect for young black women, to the point where we let all this sexual abuse occur and we don't say anything about it? Because R. Kelly's not the only one. There are a
Right.
lot of guys that are predators on young teenage girls as early as middle school and stuff like that. What do you
Right.
think?
And to be sure, it's not even just the athletes. It's not even just the successful people. We see instances of this with just, John down, well, not John, Raheem down the street, right?
Mm.
We see this type of behavior going on. And there is this level of disrespect for black women in our community, young black girls. There's a huge amount of disrespect that we just push under the rug, push under the carpet, and then you amplify that. You amplify that the more money a person is making, and then you start having people turn a blind eye. You unfortunately have some parents who turn a blind eye. You have some parents who because of the success of an athlete or the success of a ball player or a musician, they want their child to get involved. You have all kinds of twisted situations allegations. And so it's really we're another form of pimping out our community, pimping out our young women, and pimping out our young boys. There's all kinds of twisted scenarios that happen when success enters the picture. And the problem is, not only do we turn a blind eye as a community, but so long as a person, let me give you this. This was my real beef with the interview yesterday, besides R. Kelly trying to become relevant again. It was like, dude, you got away, go away and stay away. But it was like the media has had an opportunity to address R. Kelly just as much as the community has had an opportunity. But what happens is, when somebody is relevant and you want that interview, and there's somebody that you want to keep coming back, you don't ask them those difficult questions. You don't drill them because you want them to come back. And so long as somebody like R. Kelly was selling millions of records, everybody was turning a blind eye. The media was turning a blind eye. The record execs were turning a blind eye. The black community and parents, and everybody was turning a blind eye. And people are still stepping in the name of love right now, right? So we turn a blind eye even now. And so what bothered me about the interview, besides R. Kelly, was the fact where were these penetrating questions years ago? Why weren't we hammering this before these incidents happened? When this We've been talking about this since Aaliyah, since like 1991. We've been talking about R. Kelly's indiscretions, but it was always, he kept getting away with things because he was relevant. And I think all of us have, everyone who plays his music, everyone who did an interview, every record exec, everyone who turned a blind eye, we all own a piece of this because he's only as relevant as we as a community make him.
Well, one of the things I think that has played a huge part in all of this is the democratization of media, which is happening at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
I think before you had just a few media outlets that you had to control in order to keep things under the rug. And like Bill Cosby, I think that's how Bill Cosby's dirt, went unrevealed for such a long time, because he just knew who to call. He knew what to do. Now anybody with a good Twitter account can take you down. If they do it right. The second thing I think about with R. Kelly is that it's very, very difficult to listen to his music and not just be, in awe of his talent. His talent is so extraordinary. And the thing is, I'm not even big on R&B type stuff. I've seen the effect that a great male singer can have on women.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost to the point where literally that man could come in there and try to kill your whole family. But if he's singing to you while he does it, you might forgive him. And I don't know what it is. I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it. But it's a scientific phenomenon. It's something. It's why boy bands have made over billions of dollars over the course of the last 100 years. Where everything from the Beatles to New Edition to what was it? I forgot the white guys.
The
NSYNC
and all those guys.
NSYNC and just all these little boy bands. They just have this effect on these women, and I've always looked at it as a man, like, I don't understand this, but really, truth is, like, I think that it has some sort of intoxicating effect on some women, that they literally do not care what you did. They do. It's like, no, he's singing, I'm feeling good, I'm stepping in the name of love, as you said, and people, just everything else goes away. And in the black community, we have a tremendous amount of hero worship. If the white man's writing you a big paycheck and you making money, a lot of black people will forgive you for anything, any kind of ignorance, any kind of violence, any kind of destruction toward other people. They will walk away and act like it never happened, because you've given them the dope. The dope that kind of numbs them to whatever they're going through. They can listen to your music. They can look at your picture, whatever. And I think that we just kind of go for that. And here's the thing. R. Kelly knows this very well. He really does. And let me tell you why I know he knows this. Because he's not a dumb guy. Right after that big allegation went out about him and the other girl in the videotape and all that, your boy goes on BET, the wonderful network that they are. And they do the first interview with him. And I know that there was a backroom deal, because when the BET Awards occurred that year, BET didn't just make him part of the award show. Everybody else was pushing him out. BET embraced him, but they even gave him the longest performance segment of any of the artists that day. Right. So they didn't just recognize him. They didn't just exalt him. They exalted him far above everybody else at the show. And again, I said, whoa, this is some ugly corruption happening right here. This is disgusting, so because it was right in the middle of the heat of the controversy, the stuff had just come out. So here's the thing, though. When he did that first interview, which was with BET, Um, I remember watching the interview, and I remember he kept repeating. He kept saying, "Just focus on my music. Just focus on my music. Just focus on my music." And what he's saying is, it's almost like a hypnotic effect.
Mm-hmm.
He's hypnotized. He say, "Just focus on the music. Focus on the music," and because he knows that if you focus on the music, you're gonna forget that you're listening to a man who might be a child molester. And I think that's just real, and that's kind of what
Yeah.
we're dealing with. So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna quit talking about it, but I want you to get the last word, Ben. What do you think?
I think you've hit it on the head. I mean, anything I say would just kind of be repeating what you've said. But I think it's an interesting intersection. There are other factors at play. There is the simplicity of what you said, that we're dealing with a man who, for all intents and purposes, all accounts, all reports, is a child molester, right? And that impact that he has had in the black community, in just community in general, and then his expectation that black people owed him something to go and buy his album, his new album, that ego and that expectation. I think we should file R. Kelly in, stay the hell out of the public eye. You got away with it, just go away and never come back in the public eye. We could file him there. But then there's also all those other things that are at play, with all the people who empowered this all along, that allowed this to happen. And I kind of felt some kind of way about the interviewer, in the interview yesterday, simply because I'm like, these are questions that it's not her fault, right? She's probably new on the scene, so she did a good job. But these are questions people should have been asking for a long time. We should have been asking these questions since Aaliyah, since he was messing with Aaliyah back in 1991, right before, when she was just a child. We should have been asking these questions, and it's now, I feel that because he's no longer relevant, I feel that now they feel like, okay, now we can get him. But so long as he was relevant, he was the media's baby. You saw the deal the BET made with them, and he could just get away with anything. So I think all of those players have something to do with how long he stayed a relevant figure in the black community and in R&B internationally, and now finally, he's got to pay the piper.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how much he pays. I agree with you. I think it's, I would say this. I say this to people all the time, that when the truth becomes the enemy, then you're in trouble. And if
Mm-hmm.
somebody reacts because you asked a question,
Mm-hmm.
that means that they are typically afraid of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So that because if somebody asks you a question, you're supposed to just answer it. You ain't supposed to go, "What's wrong with you? Get the hell
Yeah.
out of my face!"
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what is this? I mean,
Yeah.
a question is not the same as an accusation. But
Mm-hmm.
but
I tell you what, though. I tell you what. We need the young lady, and I didn't catch her name because Huff Post shared the video but didn't put her name in it. So I apologize for not knowing her name. But we need her to interview some of these politicians. We need her to get some of these guys with some relevant questions and get some real truth to come out. Because we should never have. It's a shame that we have interviews that are tougher on musicians than politicians. But R. Kelly's a special case. He needed that. Good, go away. But let's get some of that on some of these political leaders that are screwing us up too.
there you go. All right. All right. Well, thank you, Ben. It was great speaking to you again.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dr. Watkins.
Absolutely, everybody. This is Mr. Benjamin Dixon from thebenjamindixonshow.com.
That's it.
My favorite radio show host. Brother's good. I just got to say that now and get it on record before he becomes mega famous and ain't taking my calls no more, because Ben's show is very good. I hope you guys will go check it out. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the blackbusinessschool.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.